From your local election headquarters, this is a special edition of Newsmakers, a 12 News debate.
Welcome to this special edition of Newsmakers, a debate in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim White.
And I'm Ted Nesi. The winner of the September 10th primary will be the GOP nominee in November for the seat currently held by incumbent Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse.
Now, each candidate will have an opportunity to give a one-minute closing statement at the end of the debate, and the candidates are, from left to right on your screen, Patricia Morgan, a state representative from West Warwick and former candidate for governor, and Ray McKay, a former administrator for the city of Warwick and served 11 years in the U.S. Army. Now, candidates, as you know, there's no strict format to this debate. We're looking for an open and honest discussion of the issues. We do encourage both of you to engage with each other, but if you are not answering the questions or taking too long, Ted and I will step in. All right, let's begin. Candidates, we want to start with immigration. Former President Trump has said if elected again, he would embrace mass deportations and has suggested he would possibly use the National Guard and even the military to expel more than 10 million people who live in the country illegally. Not everyone in your party has endorsed this idea. If elected to the Senate, would you support or oppose any policy that would call for so-called mass deportations of migrants from the U.S.? Ms. Morgan.
It's estimated that 20 million illegal immigrants have crossed the border illegally over the last 4 years. That's way too much. We've always embraced legal immigration when people came here legally and they got to work right away. But that's not what's happening now. And our government simply can't afford the number of immigrants that have crossed illegally. So we need to close the border first and foremost, and then we need to get rid of, actually deport the ones that do harm in our country first.
Trump's call illegally.
Many of them.
Mr. McKay, same question to you. Support or oppose that policy?
So the policy where we deploy American soldiers on American soil is a dangerous one. We need to be very careful about where we go with that. The deportations of illegal aliens in the United States of America is something that needs to happen. We've taken a look at our history where both sides, Scipio O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, worked together back in 1986 to come up with a plan where we gave 3 million illegal aliens citizenship, and we said we would close the border. We did not do that. We owe it to the American citizens. We owe it to the legal immigrants of the United States of America to honor them and their work to become American citizens, to close the border. And the people who are here now, who are straining our services, straining our tax base, so much so that the Democrats in New York City are calling for help, we need to stop. They need to be sent back home and let them allowed to come in here legally.
So if I'm hearing you right, just to be clear, you're saying you oppose the use of the U.S. military to make it happen, but you do support the policy of deporting people who are in the country illegally, maybe more than 10 million people.
I do support that, yes, sir.
Okay, Ted?
I want to turn to criticisms both of you have faced in your campaign. Mr. McKay, I'll start with you. Last month, Ms. Morgan's campaign criticized you for receiving an endorsement from a national blogger, saying you received it because of your, quote, anti-contraceptive stance. So here on the debate stage, are you against legal contraception?
No, obviously not. I'm a father of 4, 2 daughters, grandfather of 13 with 7 daughters. I fully support the women's rights to choose contraceptive. The fact that somebody from across the nation of 300 million people made an endorsement of me without contacting me, without contacting the campaign, I found it very, if you were devious, that my opponent would go and attack me without finding out the facts, the real facts. I find it unfortunate. I do support women's rights for contraception. I do support their choice of that.
Ms. Morgan, you hear the criticism there of your criticism that it was devious, picking up something that wasn't what you said it was. How do you respond?
You know, that endorsement sat on Twitter for 10 days before I even brought it up, and my opponent allowed it to stay. It was tweeted at both of us, so we both know that it was there. he was more than happy to take that endorsement based upon his anti-contraceptive stance before it was brought to the attention.
I think we just discussed I was not anti-contraceptive.
Well, I'll let you respond in a second, Mr. McKay. Let Ms. Morgan finish her point.
That being said, I've always been pro-contraceptive. Every bill that has come up in the General Assembly that has made it easier for women to obtain contraceptives, I voted for, because I think that's the answer to giving women really control over their reproductive capacity. I want to prevent people from having unwanted pregnancy, and I don't want women and their partner to have to make a sad choice. So I've always been in favor of contraceptives. There are contraceptives now that last 3, 5, even 10 years. Right? They're not all daily, they're not all hormonal. There is one out there for everyone. And when I'm in the U.S. Senate, I'm going to really push to make sure that they are available, easily available, and inexpensively available for everyone.
Just to Mr. McKay's point, he says, you just said again his anti-contraceptive stance. He says he's not anti-contraceptive. So what's behind that in your view? Why are you saying that if he says it's not true?
That's not what was in the tweet. The tweet said that he was being given this endorsement because I was pro-contraceptive, meaning he's not, right? He could have repudiated it. He could have asked that blogger to take it down. He didn't.
15 seconds to respond on that, Mr. McKay.
300 million people in America, everybody has an opinion. I'm not going to go chase after every opinion. By the way, that tweet's still up there. It's not who I am, and I stand by that.
Ms. Morgan, you've also faced scrutiny. The Providence Journal and the Boston Globe have both reported on warnings you received from the Federal Election Commission for filing apparently inaccurate campaign finance reports. How can voters trust you to win what is an underdog U.S. Senate race if you're having trouble complying with campaign finance reporting requirements? Actually,
that turned out to be a technology glitch from the FEC. And my treasurer has worked with them. It was, to get into the weeds, when Red uploads into the document, and for some reason it was kicking it back out when we submitted the report. So she had to work with the technology department, but that's all it was, just a technology glitch.
Do you accept that, Mr. McKay?
No, I don't, because I've been using WinRed since November of 22, and my treasurer out of New Jersey has had no issues, and we have had no filings of the FEC. And my campaign has never used funds that weren't dedicated to the Senate race, where Rep. Morgan has had her state rep count promote her federal race, which is against the law.
Your response?
That's untrue. It's just untrue. I mean, it's a false charge. I did have money in my state account. I had loaned, over the years, I've loaned my state account, my rep seat, a lot of money. I repaid myself from the state funds. And then I took those state funds and put them into the federal account. It's money, it's my personal money. I'm allowed to do that.
All right, candidates, we're going to do a rapid fire section here now so we can get through some topics quickly. I'm looking for 1 or 2 word answers. I'm going to start with Ms. Morgan, and then I'm going to alternate who I ask. In April, Congress passed a bill that would force ByteDance to sell TikTok to another company in the U.S., or else TikTok would be effectively banned. Do you support or oppose this policy, Ms. Morgan?
I think it makes some sense. TikTok now is controlled by the Chinese government, and they are our adversary.
You support the policy?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. McKay?
Yes, I support the policy.
We'll stick with you, Mr. McKay. Would you support or oppose legislation that would legalize recreational marijuana for those 21 years of age or older at the federal level?
At the federal level? No, I would not.
Okay, Ms. Morgan?
We have a really big defense industry here. They need sharp workers when they come to work,
yes or no,
so I
Ms.
would
Morgan?
not.
You would not. Stick with you, Ms. Morgan. Do you support or oppose term limits for members of Congress?
I do.
How long?
2 terms for the Senate, probably 4 for the House.
And Mr. McKay?
I concur with Rep. Morgan.
Including the length?
Yes.
Okay, stick with you here. Final question. Do you support or oppose term limits for Supreme Court justices?
I do not support that.
But you do for Congress?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Morgan?
I don't support it. They're an independent, co-equal branch of government.
All right, Ted?
You're both seeking to join the Senate Republican caucus, and one of the issues that has most divided the Senate GOP has been the war in Ukraine. So I want to ask each of you about that topic. Donald Trump and his supporters have been highly skeptical about U.S. aid to Ukraine, while Mitch McConnell, the outgoing leader, and his allies have argued the GOP should support aid to Kyiv and keep pushing back on Russia and Vladimir Putin. Ms. Morgan, who do you side with in this debate in your party over Ukraine, the Trump view of Ukraine or the McConnell view of Ukraine?
I think we need to continue to give aid to Ukraine, military aid, and we need to do oversight on the spending. It's a corrupt country, and we need to make sure that the money is really being spent properly. What I criticize is how it's been, the war has been prosecuted. In the beginning, we withheld weapons that they needed to win. Now we're finally giving them the airplanes, and guess what? They are pushing back, and they're having a real effect. What I want to see is that this war is won quickly and effectively. I don't want it to be a multi-year war that just drains our treasury, our weapons, and it kills so many of them. So I do support it. I think we can't allow Ukraine to be swallowed up by Russia. So yeah.
Mr. McKay, same question on this debate within your party over Ukraine. Are you with the Trump view of Ukraine or the McConnell view?
I'm definitely with the Trump view of Ukraine because we need a checks and balance system. We saw earlier this spring where the Biden and Harris administration, Harris-Biden administration came up and said, we're running low, we need more money. Oh, by the way, don't worry about it. We have an additional $250 million that we didn't spend out of our last expense account, and that leads us to see that there is a lack of control in Washington, lack of transparency. I worked with the city of Warwick for 26 years. I know what a bid is. We know how much money our vendors charge us. How do you say, oops, I've got $250 million extra? It shows a lack of oversight in Washington. That needs to be fixed.
So you support more oversight, but do you support the continued provision of aid as McConnell hoped to get through in that aid bill, the most recent one?
It would be a mix of both. We do need to provide aid because we need to stop Putin from taking Ukraine, but we need a leader. Had we had a real leader the past 3 years, Putin would not be in Ukraine today.
All right, candidates, look, this is a Republican primary debate, so we assume you both oppose Democratic policies in the Biden administration's approach to the economy, but of course criticism doesn't lower people's bills. So, Mr. McKay, what is one specific policy on the economy that you think would put money back in people's pockets?
That would definitely have to do with the energy resources. We see that energy drives the economy. It drives the delivery of all our goods. To lower our energy costs will lower the deliverables to the people, to the citizens, to the homeowners, the moms and dads who are trying to make ends meet. That's where we need to push. We need a renewable energy such as nuclear power. What we're doing in the oceans and killing the animals in the oceans, what we're doing on land and seeing bald eagles lying dead on the ground. If it was oil, there would be a huge outcry from the Democrats, but because it's wind, because it's their narrative, because it's solar, it's okay, and it's not okay.
So ramping up nuclear power is your answer in terms of trying to lower energy costs. That could take 10 years to get the country up to speed on increasing more nuclear power. People listening at home will think, well, that's really not going to have any realistic impact on my pocketbook for a long time.
That's correct. So nuclear power is part of the solution. Our natural resources is the other part of the solution. We are burning our natural resources at a much cleaner, much more efficient way than we ever have in life. And that is something we need to continue pursuing.
All right,
and that will cost. Again, so nuclear power was the electric side of the house. Deliverables is diesel. I'm not putting nuclear power plants in trucks.
Ms. Morgan, his solution to put money back in people's pockets was focusing on energy. What would be a specific policy on the economy for you?
Yeah, the federal government is spending 40% more than it's taking in. Try that for your household budgets. It would be disaster. And that's what's happening to the United States right now. We have a $35 trillion debt, and it climbs by $1 trillion every 100 days. It's unsustainable. We are spending $1.2 trillion because of the Inflation Reduction Act. We're spending $1.2 trillion on climate subsidies that we can't afford. We are paying over $600 billion to transfer college loans onto the shoulders of taxpayers, of blue-collar taxpayers. Those are two that I would stop. We can't afford it. That is almost $2 trillion of debt that this administration is spending, and there's a lot more in there. We have to start spending money on priorities and making sure that every dollar gives us value. I read the other day that the federal government now has the most waste and fraud ever. There's where inspector generals come in. I know they have them at the federal level, but we really need to ramp that up because we cannot afford to keep our debt climbing up.
On the two sides of the balance sheet, of course, of money coming in, that's taxes and spending, as you have focused on there. You named a couple of items there, but they're not big ticket items. The vast majority of money spent by the government, or I shouldn't say the vast majority, a big ticket item are social services, Social Security, Medicare. Are those areas that you would be willing to look at to cut in order to get government spending reined in?
I am not willing to cut Social Security or Medicare at all. I think you know I'm a financial advisor, and I know that most of the people who retire are depending on Social Security and Medicare. Half of the people who retire today have only Social Security for income. If we cut it, and we have known for a long time that Social Security is in trouble, but if we cut it, there are a lot of people who are going to be in abject poverty. It can't be. So we have to strengthen it. But I disagree with you. You said that those are not big ticket items. $1.2 trillion is not a big ticket item. Of course it is. $600 billion is not a big ticket item. Of course it is. That's $1.9 trillion. If we were going to spend it, we don't have it, but if we were going to spend it, it should have been going to Social Security and Medicare. One of the problems that I have
I'm going to hold you there because we only have a half an hour in this debate. Real quick, to wrap up the economy question, Mr. McKay, do you think the Federal Reserve should lower the interest rates at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Morgan?
I think they should. Our consumer is pretty exhausted right now. Credit card debt has never been higher. I don't know if you've seen the credit card rates out there, but they're 29, 35%.
So we got a yes out of you. Okay, thank you, Ted.
I actually just want to briefly ask Mr. McKay on the same question Ms. Morgan just answered. Would you support any reductions to Social Security or Medicare to help rein in the federal deficit?
I wouldn't support reductions. I would support going forward that we relook at what's going on. We've got to remember that Social Security was put on in the 1930s as part of an individual's retirement plan. As Rep. Morgan has mentioned, she's a financial planner. That should be part of the plan, but not the entire existence. Unfortunately, the United States of America has allowed its citizens to think that Social Security is going to be it. We need to educate our American citizens better. Our children need to have quality education and need to understand where life is going to take them financially, where the United States government has a role and where it doesn't have a role.
And just to be clear on that, so you're saying for future increases in Social Security, you might bring those down? Like you wouldn't see your benefits, your current benefits wouldn't go down, but maybe not grow as fast as it's expected to?
The people that are already in the system, we take care of the system. The people that are not in the system, at some point, we say to them in the 40s and 30s, those who have enough time to react to government carelessness, to change their mindset.
So would that
So we take care of the citizens today. Mm-hmm. We take care of our seniors today. We are honor bound. Life should be about integrity in politics. I'm a statesman, not a politician. We take care of those folks there today, and we explain to the future generations, life's going to change.
But so raise the retirement age, for example, to make it concrete?
That would be one of the things we'd have to take a look at the table. Obviously, when you take a look at budgets and everything else, you take a look at the totality of it, not just a piece. So when I was working with the City of Warwick and I did my annual budgets for the network and telecommunications, I did zero-based budgeting. So you start from the ground and then you work up. You start at $0. You don't say, oh, if inflation's 3%, I need another 3%. No. You find and you be smart about budgets.
Ms. Morgan, just 30 seconds on that.
I wouldn't agree to raising the retirement age.
Even prospectively for younger generations?
No, you know, I'm a financial advisor, so I sit in front of a computer. I can still do the job. But can you imagine somebody who's in manufacturing or construction? I can't see them going past the age they are now. It's just too hard. So no, I wouldn't.
Disagreement there. All right, I want to ask you both about federal policy on abortion, because while the Supreme Court decision moved many things back to the state, some Republicans are suggesting the FDA should restrict access to mifepristone, the drug that's used to induce abortions, and it's been a topic of conversation in the presidential race. Ms. Morgan, do you think the FDA should continue to allow mifepristone to be sent around the country by mail or not?
I do. I worry about some of the health consequences for young women. But I do think it still should be legal. Again, I think the answer is contraceptives, so you don't have an unwanted pregnancy. That's when women really have control of their lives and their reproductive capacity. There are dozens of contraceptives, and I want women to access those first. Then you don't have the sad choice later.
Mr. McKay, same question. Do you think the FDA should continue to allow mifepristone to be sent by mail around the country or not?
I do. I believe personal responsibility is huge in this conversation. We talk about women's responsibility and women's rights to contraception. Let's understand that it takes two to tango, that there's a gentleman involved with the women's lives, and that he is as responsible as the women are. So it's not totally a burden on the women, it's a burden on the men as well to be responsible adults, be responsible Americans, to drive home that the American family is important, and that these decisions should not be made. Be adults, think ahead. And in cases of violent crimes, we deal with that in a separate situation.
Primary voters at home might struggle to understand the difference between two Republicans running for Senate. We've heard some differences throughout this debate, but a lot of policies both of you align on. Mr. McKay, what would you say is the single biggest difference between you and your opponent?
The single biggest issue between me and Ms. Morgan would be the fact that I could never go down the road of tax and spend. This past springtime, Rep. Morgan, being the kind lady that she is, came up with a policy of growing the government, increasing the budget by $26 million to help individuals in our housing crisis that we have today. Growing the government is never the answer. And that's one of the big differences that I would never do.
You would oppose the housing infrastructure bills that she voted on in the general Assembly?
That is correct.
Okay, Ms. Morgan, your response to that?
Yeah, I think he didn't read my bill. It's the American Dream Plan, and it would allow people to get matching money if they saved themselves first, so they could get a down payment to own a home. I'm not a real fan. Listen, I'm a real fan of subsidized housing, senior high-rises for our seniors. They've worked their whole lives. They get to the end of their lives. They just can't keep up their house anymore. So I'm in favor of that, but I'm not in favor of it for our young people. I want them to be able to own their own home, to accumulate wealth there, and to become middle class. I think that's important. So my bill was about letting them save, and we would match it up to $40,000. That money came from the funds we are already putting towards affordable housing. So instead of, it was for $50 million, but instead of taking that $50 million to buy government or to build government housing, it was to give it to young people. Those people who are still living in their childhood bedroom, and that they can't launch their adult life. They have had more things happen to them over the last 10 years between the pandemic, interrupting their careers, inflation. I didn't need it when I was growing up. I did not need this kind of help, but they do.
Today, if I may,
15 seconds, we got to get to closing statements.
And today, presidential hopeful Kamala Harris proposed $25,000, similar to Rep. Morgan's bill.
All right. Now, each candidate has the opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement, the order of which was drawn prior to this debate. And up first is Mr. McKay. Mr. McKay, your 60-second closing remarks.
Thank you, Ted and Tim, for hosting today's debate, and for those watching. Like so many Rhode Islanders, I'm deeply concerned about the direction our state and our country are heading in. I'm running for the United States Senate because I believe in the promise of a greater America. Right now, Washington is broken. We don't need more entrenched, self-serving, career politicians on both sides of the aisle. It's time we bring new leadership that will fight for hard-working families, defend our freedoms, and protect the future of our children and grandchildren. We need a strong voice in the United States Senate who will stand up to the political establishment and put America first. This election is about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of Rhode Islanders and Americans, not the 10% elite. With your support and vote for me, we can make Washington work for us again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Now, Ms. Morgan, your 60-second closing remarks.
Okay. I'm concerned that the American dream is fading. Our children no longer have the certainty that after graduation, they'll be able to find a good-paying job, buy their own home, and live comfortably. And too many Rhode Islanders are working just to pay the bills, nothing more. I have a record of 12 years in the General Assembly that demonstrates my common sense approach to governing. Not only have I exposed abusive practices throughout government, I was the loudest voice against truck tolls and the damage they would do to our economy. Many of the bills I introduced became law. They included eliminating the state income tax on Social Security and eliminating the car tax. I want to keep more money in the wallets of everyday Rhode Islanders. I have worked hard and fought long to make your lives better, to make them more financially secure, and to protect the American dream. I'll do the same in the U.S. Senate.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Your 60 seconds is up, and I want to thank you, Ms. Morgan and Mr. McKay, for agreeing to take part in this important debate, and to our viewers. A reminder, Election Day is September 10th. Early voting starts on August 21st. We have everything you need to know in our voter guide, including key dates and voter information in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. You can get to it by scanning the QR code right there on your screen, or by going to WPRI.com/vote. Our next debate, 2 weeks, Republicans running for mayor in Cranston. We hope you will join us for that. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. Thank you for watching this Republican primary debate for U.S. Senate.